Starting with the 10th class today. Now in the 10th class, our first topic is tuberculosis report. This tuberculosis has been in news, or maybe in news articles you can say that. The Hindu, Indian Express, any newspaper is having tuberculosis articles every 2 or 3 days. UPSC has not asked a question ever, but they might ask any day because this is very much highlighted topic in any newspaper of India and in any monthly compilation of India. So today, through this India Tuberculosis Report 2020, we have consolidated every information about the tuberculosis which can be asked in the examination, and that will also give you a holistic overview of this problem in tuberculosis in India. Now this India Tuberculosis Report is an annual report that is released by Central Tuberculosis Division, and you should know that Central Tuberculosis Division, or CTD, it is present in Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, that releases annual report. India Tuberculosis Report, your Minister of Health is releasing this, you can say, and every information about tuberculosis status in India is present in this report. So first of all, we will understand the data given in this report, and then we can go to the depth of tuberculosis, what is the problem and how the treatment is done and everything. So Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released this annual report, India Tuberculosis Report 2020, and it is released through Central Tuberculosis Division of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So what are the data? See, first of all, in this year, in 2019, that means report came in 2020, data was of 2019. 24 lakh TB patients have been notified. And that means you have to remember that there has been an increase in the notified people, at least. If not patient, then there is increase of 40% in TB notification as compared to 2018. Why we are focusing on notification? Because in TB we have lots of missing cases. Missing cases are those cases which are dealt by the local doctor and private doctor, but are not notified to the government. So the government does not know the gravity of the situation. So compared to 2018, in 2019 you have 14% increase in reporting or notification of TB patient or TB case. Almost near complete online notification of TB patient has happened through Nikshay portal. I will tell you what is that. Nikshay portal is a Nikshay system, or Nikshay portal is a website where TB notification is done. The doctor will provide data, feed data into this portal, and this portal will have all the data related to TB patients in India. Obviously privately, but yeah, they will have it that how many cases is present in India. So was it near completion? That means perfect? No. WHO estimated more cases. Still there are some cases missing. Number of missing cases 2.9 lakh against more than 10 lakhs in 2017. See, a huge improvement. In 2017 you had missing cases 10 lakh. Missing cases are those cases which are reality of the TB and patient but are not reported, not provided in this Nikshay portal system. So those are missing cases. 10 lakh in 2017, this time only 2.9 lakh. So a huge improvement, near complete, but not still as par with the WHO estimation. It is less than that. Reportage is less than that. And you have now molecular diagnostic technique for the TB. So the proportion of children diagnosed with TB increased to 8% in 2019 compared to 6% only in 2018. So testing also improvement, diagnostic also improvement, particularly for the children because of molecular diagnostics, right? And provision of HIV testing for all notified TB patient, because HIV is a comorbidity. The person has high risk of dying if he has the HIV also, and problem in the treatment. So provision of HIV testing for all notified TB patient increased. So notified TB patient has to sometimes go through HIV also. That has increased. It was 67%, now it is 81%. Now the treatment services are also expanded to villages and every level. So that has resulted in 12% improvement in treatment success rate of notified patients. 2019 it is 81%. Last year the treatment was only 69%. So treatment also improved, 81% treatment compared to 69%. Now your Nikshay system, Nikshay, see, TB in Hindi is called Chaya Rog, okay? So that is why we have Nikshay, that is no Chaya Rog. Nikshay also expanded the provision of 4 direct benefit transfer scheme of the program. So in TB, in Nikshay system, you have DBT also directly to the patient. So 4 direct benefit transfer schemes running under this Nikshay is Nikshay Poshan Yojana to the TB patient. This is not your Poshan Abhiyan. of Ministry on Health and Family Welfare. Sorry, Ministry of Women and Child and Development. This is Nikshay Poshan Yojana by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Poshan Abhiyan is by Ministry of Child and Development. So ignore that. Remember this Nikshay Poshan Yojana to TB patient. A sum of money is provided, 500 around. The incentive to treatment supporters, whoever is supporting the treatment, they will be also given incentive through this Nikshay system only. Incentive to private providers of the treatment, they will also be given some support. And transport incentive to TB patient in the notified tribal areas. All these are done through DBT through the Nikshay portal system only. Now there is something special about this annual report in 2020, and the special thing is that first time states or union territories are ranked according to their elimination effort regarding TB. First time Central TB Division of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has introduced a quarterly ranking, not an annual ranking. The report is annual, but the ranking is done quarterly on TB elimination efforts by all states and union territories. Some states have done very good, some states have done bad, but this will never be asked in UPSC examination that which states are doing better other than other states regarding elimination of the tuberculosis. But you should know that first time in the report this feature is introduced that you will be doing Central TB Division will be doing quarterly ranking of various states and union territories regarding their TB elimination efforts. Now there is one more important thing you should remember exactly. Previously in the country we had a program. Program was Revised National Tuberculosis Control Program, RNTCP. Revised National Tuberculosis Control Program was there, RNTCP, for elimination of tuberculosis. Now India is committed to achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal of eliminating TB from the country by 2025. Now Sustainable Development Goal deadline is 2030, but India is targeting that about that health goal of the Sustainable Development Goal. I have already taught you about the Sustainable Development Goal and target and development of it, so let's not go into the detail of that. But 2030 is the deadline of SDG. India is saying that we will be eliminating TB 5 years ahead of global target 2030. For that, India has renamed have made a new name for this. Revised National Tuberculosis Control Program is named to National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. What is the difference? You can understand. This one was control program. This is elimination program, NTEP, RNTCP to NTEP. And the funding for this program will be coming from Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria. This is combinedly called as GFATM. Global Fund for AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria. World Bank will also be providing some funding, and there are some other organizations also providing some funding. What are the other initiatives regarding TB at the international and national level? First of all, National Strategic Plan. It started in 2017 and the target is 2025. Why? To eliminate TB by 2025, 5 years ahead of Sustainable Development Goal. And Sustainable Development Goal 3 is for your health. See, this is Sustainable Development Goal 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being. And TB elimination is part of that. One more thing, a new testing technique, diagnostic technique has been developed. For the patients who are having pulmonary tuberculosis is tuberculosis in lung. That is more prevalent one. Tuberculosis can be of two types. One is pulmonary regarding your lung, and one is extrapulmonary that can happen in any organ, maybe brain also. Okay, so pulmonary tuberculosis, those patients having pulmonary tuberculosis presumed to be drug sensitive. If they are drug sensitive and having pulmonary tuberculosis, the diagnostic system somehow was very difficult. But a new technique has been developed. This is known as Ziegler-Nielsen acid fast testing or fluorescence microscopy, and that has resulted in more better testing. Then there are patients who have multi-drug resistance. This is first one is drug sensitive because you are having tuberculosis in lungs. Okay, for that you have Ziegler-Nielsen acid fast staining or fluorescence microscopy, a new developed diagnosis technique. Second is, if the patient is having multi-drug resistance TB, which is called MDR TB, they are diagnosed according to WHO supported guidelines, rapid diagnostics. So all those things are happening. And if you talk about WHO endorsed rapid diagnostic, you can name this TrueNAT, line probe assay or cartridge based nucleic acid amplification test. So if UPSC asks what are these tests related to which disease, you should remember that. The cartridge-based nucleic acid amplification test, line probe assay, TrueNAT, these are all for multi-drug resistance TB patient diagnosis, and this is WHO endorsed. Now I just talked about direct benefit transfer in Nikshay Poshan Yojana. So let's go into the detail of Nikshay Poshan Yojana of the Indian government. As you already know, this is a DBT scheme for nutritional support. Okay, for the nutritional support to tuberculosis, Poshan, nutrition, but not the Poshan Abhiyan of Ministry of Women and Child Development. This is by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare TB division from the Nikshay portal, Nikshay website, where the patient will be provided some money for the nutritional support for the TB patient only, and during the treatment period only, not after that. It was launched by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2018. Now, what is the nature of this scheme? This is a centrally sponsored scheme, and all those rules about funding of this centrally sponsored scheme will apply, and it is under National Health Mission. If you talk about National Health Mission, it was launched by the Government of India in 2013, and previously we had in our country National Rural Health Mission and National Urban Health Mission. National Rural Health Mission and National Urban Health Mission were subsumed by National Health Mission 2013 for an integrated approach. It is also an initiative of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare only. What are the major initiatives under National Health Mission? First is accredited social health activist. You already hear a lot about ASHA workers. So these accredited social health activist or ASHA workers, this scheme, this initiative is taken under National Health Mission only. They establish a link between your community and health system. This is the first port for any health related demands of deprived sections of the population, especially women and children. Then there is another initiative, Rogi Kalyan Samiti or Patient Welfare Committee or Hospital Management Society. A group of trustees for the hospitals to manage the affairs of the hospital, and financial assistance is provided to these committees through unified fund to undertake activities for patient welfare. Janani Suraksha Yojana is also under this National Health Mission only. It was launched in 2005 by the Prime Minister of India. Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram, that is also by this National Health Mission only. Then Tribal TB Eradication Project. This is also under the National Health Mission. So many things under National Health Mission I just wanted to enumerate. So what is given in Nikshay Poshan Yojana? Financed by the Government of India with partial financing provided through World Bank. Partial financing by World Bank. DBT provides rupees 500 per month to notified. If you are registered and notified, then only. If your case is notified on the Nikshay portal, then only you can get the DBT. Otherwise you won't get. Government should know your data. So notified TB patient, and if there is MDR TB patient, for the duration of their treatment, 500 per month is provided, and you must be registered or notified on Nikshay portal. Now what is Nikshay portal? Nikshay portal simply is a website where you have repository for all the TB cases. The doctors provide the feed, and then everything is accumulated there, and you will be provided DBT, and you might be provided some support also. So Nikshay is the National TB Information System. So this becomes a surveillance tool under the National TB Elimination Program. Surveillance tool because the government will know where are the cases. National Data Repository of TB Information for advanced analytics. Government will do the analysis which region is more sensitive, where we have the MDR TB, where we have the XDR TB. XDR TB, I will explain you what is that. Then there is a Stop TB Partnership. This is not by the Government of India. This program, the Stop TB Partnership, was launched in 2001, and it was launched in Switzerland. But various NGOs, private bodies, various governments are coming here on this platform, and the secretariat is Geneva, Switzerland, and aim is the same. Every TB patient has access to effective diagnosis, treatment and cure. This Stop TB Partnership has the headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. In September 2019 only, Indian government launched TB Harega Desh Jitega campaign. This is kind of an awareness campaign. You have Saksham project also, where private bodies are participating. It is a project of Tata Institute of Social Sciences present in Mumbai, and they have been providing psychosocial counseling to drug resistance TB patients. That is Saksham project. Saksham is the name of so many projects, but here you have to remember Tata Institute of Social Sciences have come with psychosocial counseling to drug resistant TB patient, because sometimes they are depressed, sometimes they are anxious. So this Saksham project came by them for the counseling. Now coming to the core of this science section, how is TB caused? What are multi-drug resistant tuberculosis? What is your extensively drug resistant tuberculosis and everything? First of all, TB is not caused by a virus. TB is caused by a bacterium. Bacterium is named as Mycobacterium genus and a species is tuberculosis. Simple, very easy to remember. Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the bacteria causing tuberculosis and mostly affects the lungs. So when it affects the lungs, it will be called pulmonary TB. When it doesn't affect the lung but affects other organs, it will be known as extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Transmission is very easily happening through air. So any patient who coughs up TB, sneezes or spits through the air, particles will be infecting the other person. So person to person transmission through air, through coughing, sneezing and spitting. Treatment, possible or not? Treatment is very much possible, treatable and curable disease. It is treated with a standard 6-month course of 4 antimicrobial drugs are given in the initial stage, and 6 months course has to be completed. Any 1 day or 2 day missing means the chances are more for developing the resistance. If the resistance is developed for TB, there can be two types of resistance. One is multi-drug resistance tuberculosis. This is simply known as MDR-TB. See, in the primary stage, the first line anti-TB drugs are present, the primary drugs, okay, for the every common person. If your body does not respond to that, okay, if you are caused TB by a bacteria that is not impacted by the first line of defense anti-TB drugs, then you have the MDR-TB. So caused by bacteria that do not respond to isoniazid and rifampicin. These are the two most powerful first line anti-TB drugs. So in the first 6 months course, antimicrobial drugs are given. Those are first line defense drugs. In that, isoniazid and rifampicin are the most two powerful, and if the bacteria does not respond to that drug, that means the person has multi-drug resistance tuberculosis. MDR-TB is treatable and curable by using second line drugs. So first line fails, so you go for the second line. But what if second line also fails? That becomes extensively drug resistance TB, XDR-TB, and this is a more serious form of MDR-TB only. You have the multiple drug resistance, but now from the second line, and this is caused by bacteria that do not respond to the most effective second line anti-TB drugs. So what are the most effective second line anti-TB drugs? In first line you have the isoniazid and rifampicin. In the second line you have fluoroquinolones. What are those fluoroquinolones? Some examples: levofloxacin or moxifloxacin. Levofloxacin and moxifloxacin is the name probably. Anyway, pronunciation can be different. I'm not a doctor. So levofloxacin and moxifloxacin, these are the most famous drugs in the second line of defense. And after failing these two drugs to at least one of the three injectable second line drugs, those can be amikacin, capromycin or kanamycin. So in the second line, if the bacteria does not respond to these two drugs, levofloxacin and moxifloxacin, and also to at least one injectable second line drug out of these three, then it will be known as extensively drug resistance TB, XDR-TB. But what if the second line also fails? That will be totally drug resistant tuberculosis, resistant to all the first and second line TB drugs. All of them. This is not treatable, obviously. The man's life is in God's hand then. Global TB report 2019. You heard about the India TB report. But what about global TB report? Who releases that? This is released by World Health Organization, and according to that, India is the country with highest TB burden in the world. You have to remember this line very carefully. Burden means number of cases. This topic was very long, but now some small topics are coming. Don't worry. World Food Prize 2020. These are like facts, so you have to remember also. World Food Prize 2020. What is that? First of all, what is World Food Prize? Nobel laureate, Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Okay, remember that Norman Borlaug had got Nobel Prize for peace. Okay, Nobel Peace Prize Nobel laureate Norman Borlaug in 1986 created World Food Prize. He created the World Food Prize, and the recognition has to be given to scientists and other any contributors who has helped humanity by improving the quality and availability of food to the people, food to the world, and some money is given. And importance is that this World Food Prize is considered as Nobel Prize in Agriculture. So one Indian American scientist Dr. Ratan Lal, who is 76 age, has got the Nobel Prize in Agriculture or World Food Prize this year. Actually, he is an alumnus of Punjab Agricultural University, born in that part of the Punjab which is in Pakistan now. He got honorary degree also from this your Punjab University. So Punjab Agriculture University, he is an alumnus of that, and then he moved to USA, Ohio State University. So he got the prize as USA citizen, right? This is done by World Food Prize Foundation. And what is the research of Dr. Lal? See, in Dr. Lal in 1996, around in 1990s, revealed that restoring degraded soils, he is a soil scientist actually. So he works to restore the quality of the soil for agriculture. That will lead to availability of food and quality of food. That is why this Nobel Peace Prize Foundation Foundation created by Norman Borlaug has awarded him. Restoring degrading soils through increasing soil carbon. He tries to improve the quality of carbon present in soil and organic matter. Not only improved soil health, but it also helped combat rising carbon dioxide levels in the air by sequestering atmospheric carbon. So you have the carbon in the atmosphere, but if you sequester somehow into the soil system, first of all, it will lead to less impact of global warming because carbon is less in atmosphere. And then that carbon goes in the soil, it will help the agriculture, it will help the quality of the soil. So both of these things are done by his techniques and research. And he had provided leadership to a range of soil restoration projects in Asia, Africa and Latin America in his age, and integrated no-till farming and use of cover crops, mulching and agroforestry, everything traditional and new technique, protected soils, conserve water and return back nutrients, carbon and organic matter in the soil. All of this led to improvement of the soil so that food quality and availability can be enhanced in the world. That is why he was awarded with Nobel Prize in Agriculture or World Food Prize 2020. Norman Borlaug, you have to remember that he is the person who in the mid 20th century introduced the high yielding varieties combined with modern agriculture production techniques to Mexico, Pakistan and India. Only because of him, Norman Borlaug is known as the father of the Green Revolution. In Mexico also he increased the wheat production, and Mexico became a net exporter of wheat by 1963 because of Norman Borlaug's initiatives. In India, wheat yield nearly doubled in Pakistan and India, greatly improving the food security in those nations. So all of this is contribution. That is why he got the Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, when he did agricultural research in some Mexico university, in Mexico he developed semi-dwarf high yielding HY variety, disease resistance varieties of wheat varieties. All that variety only was used first in Mexico, then India, Pakistan. So that is his contribution. He is no more. His death happened in 2009. Our next topic is FSSAI initiative. This initiative is Food Safety Compliance System, FOSCOS. Food Safety Compliance System, FOSCOS. See, previously also Food Safety Compliance System was present in FSSAI website, but now it is an upgrade. Food Safety and Standard Authority of India is launched already in June. It is a cloud based, okay, so the data will be cloud based on the internet, and this is upgraded new food safety compliance online platform. This will be known as FOSCOS, okay, FOSCOS, Food Safety Compliance System. Now this portal will offer licensing, registration, inspection and annual return modules of the food business operators. This is conceptualized to provide one-stop, one-stop solution for all engagements of an FBO. FBO is Food Business Operator with the department for any regulatory compliance transaction. This will happen at this point only. So what was the previous system? Since 2011, FSSAI online licensing platform was present. This was known as Food Licensing and Registration System. That was the soul of the licensing ecosystem, and a lot of licensing has been done through that, more than 50 lakh. But now we are upgrading it with FOSCOS, Food Safety Compliance System online portal. Everything, registration, inspection, annual return, modules, licensing, everything will happen. And if a company, a food business operator, FBO, does not follow the guidelines, so they will be in trouble. So this will enable pan India, that means entire India, integrated response system to any food fraud done by any food business operator. If they are not adhering to the guideline and the compliance system, this system will check their fraud. So a little introduction about FSSAI. This is a UPSC question also. When was FSSAI created? It was created in August 2011, right? It is present under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Remember that. It is a statutory body. FSSAI had been established under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. The act came in 2006. The body came in 2011. This consolidates all the statutes or laws related to food safety and regulation. When the Maggie incident happened, this happened because of FSSAI inspection only. They are responsible for protecting and promoting public health through the regulation and supervision of food safety. That is why they intervened in the Maggie case. Headed by a non-executive chairperson appointed by the central government. When this act came, Food Safety and Standard Act 2006, it subsumed various other acts of the India present in the past. See, central acts like Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954, Fruit Product Order 1955, Meat Food Products Order 1973, Vegetable Oil Product Control Order, Edible Oil Packaging Regulation 1988, Solvent Extracted Oil, De-oiled Meal and Edible Flour Control Order 1967, Milk and Milk Product Order 1992. All of these were repealed after this FSS Act or Food Safety Standard Act came in 2006, and in 2011 under this act only FSSAI was created. Okay, and in a state you have a state food safety authorities. They will enforce the various provisions of this FSS Act. You do not need to remember that. Just give you an idea that previously also the work was being done, but now this act has done the consolidation of the previous work. Our next topic is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. Now for understanding these topics we have to relate three topics actually. First of all, understand that when a defect is caused by a genetic disorder, for that, if gene is present on your sex chromosome, what is the necessity? First of all, understand that a male has sex chromosome in the form of XY, female has XX. Okay. Now suppose a defect causing gene is present on X chromosome. This X chromosome. Suppose this is the defect gene present on X chromosome. For male, you see, for male you have X chromosome only one copy. So in only one X chromosome, sex chromosome, if a defect is present, the male will be affected. But female, you have one more safety. If the female has on one gene, if the gene is recessive, okay, if the gene is dominant, then not possible. But if the gene is recessive and present on X chromosome, female are more safe because it should be present on both the chromosomes. Those chances are very rare. Only then the impact will come if it is present on both the chromosomes. If it is present on one chromosome and the other chromosome is healthy, only X, not having the defective gene, the healthy gene will prevail. But not in the case of male. For male, even if the gene is present on X chromosome or on Y chromosome does not have so many genes, don't worry about that, ignore that. X chromosome, if it is present on X chromosome, then the male will be affected directly. So some diseases which are having their defective genes on X chromosome are more prevalent in males. One type of that disease is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. This is a genetic disorder, and what has happened that in COVID-19 situation it has come in the news. Why? Because your government of India through its Indian Council of Medical Research has said that for the COVID-19 more and more hydroxychloroquine, this medicine should be used. hydroxychloroquine medicine should be used. But the problem is that in Gujarat, in Surat, you have a Vatalia Prajapati community. That Vatalia Prajapati community, in that community, almost 25% of the population is suffering from this glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, a genetic disorder. Now, if a person gets the medicine hydroxychloroquine for the treatment of COVID-19, and if the person is having glucose 6-phosphate deficiency, then glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, then it can result in rupturing of the blood vessel, brain damage in infants, and kidney failure in the adults. So we have to take care in Surat Vatalia Prajapati community that they should not be given this hydroxychloroquine, otherwise their rupturing of blood vessel, brain damage, and kidney failure can happen. So what is the role of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase? You have to understand it is an important enzyme, and you know enzymes are proteins. It regulates various biochemical reactions in the body. That is a general statement, but more specifically it is responsible for keeping your red blood cells healthy. If there is a deficiency, the red blood cells are not healthily grown. That means your RBC is not healthily grown. Okay, so this is the problem caused by glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, but that problem has solution. Now if that person is getting COVID-19 and you are providing them hydroxychloroquine, it can result to various other effects also. So we have to take care that this Prajapati community should not be directly given hydroxychloroquine without a thought. So this is the genetic disorder, this is the problem, this is the vulnerability of this community of Surat, Gujarat. Next topic is Satyabhama portal. Satyabhama portal, the full form is, this is abbreviation actually Satyabhama, right? Satyabhama is Science and Technology Yojana for Atmanirbhar Bharat in mining advancement. So this portal is created for mines and minerals development in India, named as Satyabhama portal. Science and Technology Yojana for Atmanirbhar Bharat is in news. So one of these components becomes for mining development, Satyabhama Science and Technology Yojana for Atmanirbhar Bharat in mining advancement. But it will also look in the mineral improvement and mining everything. This portal is for research and development in mining advancement, mineral advancement, and this research portal is integrated with NGO Darpan portal of Niti Aayog. What is NGO Darpan portal of Niti Aayog? NGO Darpan portal is of Niti Aayog, where NGOs, voluntary organizations, can interact with the government department and ministry. Now the function of it will be that this will allow online submission of project proposal by the companies, monitoring of projects, and utilization of funds and grants given to the companies. All of these things will be monitored through this Satyabhama portal, online submission of the also of the project proposals. Now, which organization or institution of the government is handling this? Developed, managed, and implemented by NIC. NIC is an attached office of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Previously, NIC was in Planning Commission. Later, it was transferred to Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Now, you might forget that Satyabhama is related to mines and mineral development. But if you know the meaning of Satyabhama in Indian culture, you will not forget that. So from where you get the mines, minerals and everything? Earth, right? Bhumi. Satyabhama, also known as Satrajiti, is the third consort of the god Krishna. The eighth Bhumi, so this is a lady god, okay? Goddess. The eighth avatar of the god Vishnu. She was the daughter of Satrajit Yadav king, that is why she named as Satrajiti. And here is the marriage depiction also, she and Lord Krishna, third consort. Anyway, this Satyabhama Devi is considered to be an avatar of Bhumi Devi, the goddess of the earth, who in Prakriti form becomes goddess Mahalakshmi. Okay, that is why, and she aided Krishna in defeating the demon Narkasura, who lived in the Nark. So that is why Satyabhama is related to Bhumi, and that is why it is related to your portal, Satyabhama portal. NIC was created in 1976. It is the flag bearer of your Digital India initiative of the Government of India, because National Informatics Center is related to digital things only. Present in established in 1976 under the aegis of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. But previously, NIC was established in 1976 under the Planning Commission by the Government of India. Then it was transferred to the MeitY Ministry for better functioning of it. e-governance and everything is undertaken by this NIC. This topic is very important for your prelims. Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, or it is pronounced as GPAI, GPAI, but pronounced as GPAI. Okay. India has joined this thing as a founding member. India joins global, it came in June. India joins Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence as a founding member, GPAI. What is that GPAI? GPAI is not only multi-government. This is multi-stakeholder. So various companies, various researchers, various NGOs, various countries will come together and they will work for responsible development and use of artificial intelligence, and this basic will be grounded in human rights, inclusion of every person, diversity, innovation and economic growth of all countries. During the COVID-19 global crisis, it becomes even more important because leading experts from industry, civil society, government and academia will collaborate together to promote responsible evolution of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence should not become a threat to humanity, but it should encourage human rights, inclusion, diversity, innovation and economic growth. And they will evolve methodology to show how artificial intelligence can be used to better respond to present global crisis around COVID-19, embedded around COVID-19. Also, you have to remember that India has recently launched a National Artificial Intelligence Strategy and National Artificial Intelligence Portal with the help of Niti Aayog. And India is using this in education, agriculture, healthcare, e-commerce, finance, telecommunications, everything we are exploring with artificial intelligence. How much possibility is of using artificial intelligence? We are looking into it through our National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. So India will also help the world, and India will also get help from the world researchers and everyone through GPAI, right? Now the organizational structure is very important. GPAI will be supported by a secretariat, and that secretariat will be hosted by OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, based in Paris. OECD is well explained in the previous lecture, so no need to go into that again. OECD will be hosting the secretariat of GPAI. But it's not that only OECD member countries are present there. There are various countries present. In fact, India is not a member of OECD. India is a member of G20, but not OECD. But still, in that thing, GPAI of initiative of OECD, India is also a participant. The secretariat will be GPAI will be supported by secretariat to be hosted by OECD, but also 2 centers of expertise, one each in Montreal and Paris, will be created. Yukti 2.0 second version web portal. See, in the COVID time, Ministry of Human Resources did one thing. MHRD launched, now Education Ministry, MHRD launched Yukti portal, and this was launched with an aim to monitor and record the efforts and initiatives of the ministry, that is MHRD ministry, which was undertaken in the wake of COVID-19. It was launched in April 19. The Yukti 1.0 I am saying about, it was launched by MHRD to record the efforts and initiatives of the MHRD ministry for the COVID-19. It was launched in April. Government, MHRD launched Yukti to monitor and record the efforts and initiatives of MHRD. That portal was aimed at covering various initiatives and efforts of institutions in academic research, especially related to COVID-19, some social initiatives by institutions, and measures taken for the betterment and well-being of the students. So this was all about Yukti 1.0, or the previous Yukti in April. Now in June-July, Ministry of Human Resources and Development launched Yukti 2.0 web portal. Why 2.0? 1.0 was related only to MHRD, its initiatives and everything for the COVID-19. But now this Young India Combating COVID with Knowledge, Technology and Innovation 2.0 web portal. Yukti full form is this: Young India Combating COVID with Knowledge, Technology and Innovation 2.0 web portal. Nobody can defeat Modi government in creating abbreviations. So Union Human Resource Minister launched Yukti 2.0. So this is the full form again. This is a web portal. Now the purpose is to encourage technology and innovation of a student, teacher and a startup and connect with the business. So any student, teacher or a startup having a very good business idea, they can get incubation from the industry experts and businesses. For that, this is a connecting line, the Yukti 2.0 web portal. And that is how this will bring together technologies and innovations of a student, faculty and a startup, which can be showcased to the investor community, the angel investor and all. or businessmen, farmers and industrialists, they can collaborate together and the idea can be incubated and used for the humanity. So this is about Yukti 2.0 web portal, an upgrade over various specific COVID-19 related Yukti 1.0 of the Ministry of Human Resources and Development. During COVID-19 situation, it was felt that there was no integrated public information present about the availability of drugs, equipments, PPE, apparel and everything. So your CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR came with a plan. They created a web portal. It looks like this. This web portal is known as Arogyapeeth, one-stop supply chain solution for your healthcare needs. So everybody in the public domain will know that where are these kits, where are these kits, where are these kits, where are these kits. Everything is present here. See, emergency supplies, products, stakeholders, seller opportunity offer for customer. Every information is present there. You can get a callback also. A better supply chain management through online portal. This is the purpose of Arogyapeeth launched by CSIR. This becomes a national healthcare supply chain portal. Information platform. Arogyapeeth, it will provide real-time availability of critical healthcare supplies of COVID-19 related things, manufacturers, suppliers, medicine manufacturers, or maybe equipment manufacturer, supplier, customers also. So all of this can see their availability and demand together at this integrated platform. Single point availability of key healthcare goods such as medical equipment, drug, apparel. This is all about Arogyapeeth. Data Lake Project and Management Software. Your National Highway Authority of India has become the first construction sector organization of the country which has gone fully digital. They have developed Data Lake and Project Management Software. This is a big data analytics based system, cloud based system that is having the full digital ecosystem. So NHAI becomes fully digital with Data Lake and Project Management Software. This came in the news. Entire project management workflow which was manual till now is transferred now to online portal based system where you have complete detail about the project execution operations including workflow with timelines. So any delay if happening, you will get an alert. The government will get an alert. Workflow with the timeline and alert mechanisms. Everything is integrated. Cloud-based, artificial intelligence powered, big data analytics platform. You have to remember these words. Okay. This is known as Data Lake and Project Management Software. And mainly you have to remember that this is launched by NHAI, National Highway Authority of India. Project documentation, contractual decisions, approvals, everything will be done online only, and this will lead to something very good. Actually, NHAI has a huge arbitration case problem, dispute problem about the delays, about the money and everything. Now everything becoming online with alert system, workflow with timeline with alert system. These pendencies, these disputes can be reduced to some extent, and that will lead to less cases about NHAI. See, forecast the delays already. If the delay is happening for 1 year, it will forecast that see this person is not doing the work. So in 1 month only we know that in 5 years the project will be delayed. So likely disputes will also be reduced, and it will give advanced alert so that in the initial stage only you can do the decision making. Government can do the decision making. Timely and correct decisions, everything can be taken. Alternatives can be looked upon. So this will reduce a lot of disputes in NHAI. If you want to know about the National Highways Authority of India, National Highway Authority of India is an autonomous agency of the Government of India. It was set up in 1988. 1988 is the year when Virat Kohli was born. 1988 is the year when Prevention of Corruption Act came. So it is the project manager for your national network of national highways. Okay. Over 50,000 kilometers of the national highways out of 1,15,000 kilometers, 1,15,000 kilometers total national highways around. Out of that, 50,000 road kilometer network is responsibly managed by NHAI. Nodal agency of which ministry? Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Nitin Gadkari ji is there. It has signed MOU with Indian Space Research Organization ISRO also for satellite mapping of the highways. This is a very good news. So that is all about NHAI, I think. Okay, yeah. How was it created? It was created through promulgation of National Highways Authority of India Act 1988. So this is again a body which was created by an act. So the Golden Quadrilateral, North South and East West Corridor, North South and East West Corridor, Golden Quadrilateral at the 4 centers, National Green Highway Mission, everything is undertaken by NHAI. Next topic is UV light device, handheld device which will emit UV light, ultraviolet light and kill coronavirus. So Indian Express, there was a discussion, is this possible? Yes, Pennsylvania State University researchers have pointed out that this is possible. Ultraviolet radiation in the range of 200 to 300 nanometer range, it is known to destroy the virus. This is a fact. It makes the virus incapable of reproducing and infecting, according to the Pennsylvania State University. And generally, first of all, you should know that the ultraviolet radiation wavelength is 10 nanometer to 400 nanometer. Out of that, particularly 200 to 300, very high dose, right? High wavelength, 200 to 300 nanometer range is responsible to destroy the virus, and it stops its reproduction and infection capacity. World Health Organization says that ultraviolet lamps should not be used to disinfect hands or other areas of the skin. It can damage and cause irritation in the eyes. So this is a problem. But first of all, is it possible? What are the constraints and what is the solution of using ultraviolet light handheld device to kill coronavirus? One problem is that it is very expensive. Till the technologies we have available with us, it is very expensive. Such devices do exist, but a state university have pointed out that these radiation sources from which we are getting the UV radiation from the portable devices, these are typically expensive mercury containing gas discharge lamp. It requires very high power and has a relatively short lifetime, and it is bulky. So bulky, short life, just like your previous phones, Nokia phones, bulky bulky and short life, and requires high power. So that is a problem. This becomes expensive. The mercury containing gas discharge lamp for the UV radiation for killing the coronavirus becomes expensive. So what is the solution? Solution is that you develop ultraviolet light emitting diodes, LEDs. If you develop such LEDs which can emit ultraviolet, you will have the solution, and that will be portable and energy efficient because LEDs are very small. And you know what are diodes? Specialized conductors that transmit electricity in one direction. If you have read physics, you know about the diodes. If you do not have, otherwise it is not a problem, ignore that. LEDs that emit ultraviolet light too exist, but again applying a current to them for light emission is complicated by the fact that electrode material also has to be transparent to ultraviolet light. If the electrode material is not transparent to ultraviolet light, then how will it come out of the instrument? So what is the solution? Solution is coming by one Japan university and other universities also. Pennsylvania State University team, in collaboration with material theorists from the University of Minnesota and also some Japanese university also, they have figured out that if you develop a new class of transparent conductors that use a material called a strontium niobate, these kind of transparent conductors, a strontium niobate, can be used to emit that ultraviolet light which can come out of the instrument, and the electrode will be transparent to it. Then you can kill the coronavirus with the ultraviolet light. But these are indeed theoretical predictions pointed to the material. But remember that whenever it comes, you can use it to disinfect the public spaces only. You cannot use it to disinfect your hands and legs, maybe all those things. This will be dangerous. So only the public spaces can be cleaned with, disinfected with your ultraviolet emitting LED, strontium niobate thing. Also, see, there are two types of public space disinfectant for coronavirus. One is chemical, and the chemical you are already using, and the second is ultraviolet light. Only two. Okay, so this is all in this lecture today. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.